Good morning, Year 6, and welcome to Thursday, the 25th of February's curriculum lesson. Okay, so today you are going to be carrying out an investigation on the effects of sugar on yeast, okay, and what happens when we mix these in a little bit of water. Okay, so just to recap, on Monday we learned about microorganisms. And these are living things that are too small to be seen with the human eye, so we need microscopes. Now, one of the things that you'll need everything you'll need today, in your bag, in your packs, you should have a sealed bag that has a sachet of yeast in, a balloon, and a small bag of sugar. So the sugar is just in a normal clear bag that says sugar on the front, and then the sachet of yeast should be in a foil bag. Okay, so what you will need is a bottle and then some warm water. Now, on the warm water, please make sure that it is not boiling water, okay? And there's a very important reason for this I'll explain. So what you want to do, the easiest way to get this warm water is to run the hot tap so it is hot. But if you'll know this, your taps get really hot. The water from the hot tap at its hottest is too hot, okay? So you need about half of that hot water and then half of cold water. Mix it up with a spoon. So you should be able to dip your finger in and it be warm like the bath, okay, or a shower. So that kind of warmness of water. Okay, if it's too warm, then this experiment won't work, okay, and I'll explain why. So the experiment won't work for this reason. So the dried yeast in your sachet, okay, its scientific name is Saccharomyces cerevisiae, and it's often used in cooking to ferment things or to make things rise. Okay, so yeast is a microorganism and it respires. So we respire, and we do this by breathing. So yeast respires. Obviously, yeast doesn't have lungs like we do, but they still respire and they still release carbon dioxide. Okay, that's the gas that we're going to see today. Now, because yeast is a living thing, okay, it doesn't look like it here. It looks like a powder, and yours will look like a powder as well. Okay, but they are actual living organisms that have been dried. The moment you put them in water, they will activate. Okay, if that water contains sugar, then they will activate more. If that water is boiling, okay, if we put a real living thing in boiling water, it will die. If the water is hot, too hot, so hotter than you'd have your bath or shower, then it will kill the yeast and your experiment won't work. If it's too cold, your experiment won't work because the yeast will just be too slow, or it'll take a long time to work. Okay, if you're lucky enough to have a thermometer at home, the temperature of your water needs to be about 37 degrees, okay? Not more than 40 degrees. If it's more than 40, it'll kill the yeast off. Okay, so if yeast has a food source, it will respire and produce carbon dioxide, and this is what we're going to collect in today's experiment, so you can see it for yourself. So just if you're interested, this is what yeast looks like under the microscope. Okay, right, so what you're going to do then is that you will need 2 bottles for this, or just 1 bottle. It's absolutely fine. If you're using 2 bottles, put half of the first blow the balloons up and let the air out. Do that a few times because it'll stretch them, and that'll be good. Add the yeast into the bottle first, and then add your warm water into the bottle, okay? And just swill it around a little bit, okay, until the yeast dissolves. Then put the balloon over the top of the bottle, okay? That's the method without sugar. If you've only got 1 bottle, just use the method with sugar. If you've got 2, do both. You do the same thing with sugar. So I'd put the yeast into the bottle first. Obviously, if you're using 2 bottles, half of the bag goes into 1 bottle, half in the other. Put the yeast in, and then put the sugar in, and then put the water in, and then mix it around in the bottle. Okay. Once everything's dissolved, put the balloon on the top. All right, and you should, when you've got the sugar in, notice the mixture start to bubble. Okay, so the yeast is then feeding on the sugar and it makes carbon dioxide. Okay, and then what you need to do is leave it. if you leave it in a warm place, so near a radiator is a good one, in order to not kill the yeast. If the radiator's on full blast, you might want to put like a towel over the radiator and put the yeast on top, so it will keep the water a nice temperature for the yeast. And then what I'd like you to do after you've done that is draw what happens on your sheets. You should have this sheet right at the bottom. It shows you what to do, shows you what the bottle should look like, and then just draw what happens for each one there and there, and explain. And I won't spoil it for you. It might take between half an hour and an hour. If your water temperature is too low, it'll probably take a bit longer. But then once it's finished, I want you to write your results. So what did the yeast and sugar mixture do? What did the yeast and the water just do? Why did they react differently? What happens if we put the same amount of yeast in but more sugar in? That's just a bit of a guess there. And what would happen if we put more yeast in but the same amount of sugar? Okay, so these answers can all be answered on the back of the sheet. Now, just a little bit from me. I only gave you, I think, 2 tablespoons of sugar, which should be enough to make this work. But obviously with the yeast, if it has more food, it will make more carbon dioxide. So definitely, if you like, add more sugar. Okay, and for some weird reason, the last time I tried this, brown sugar worked really, really well. But I know that's quite expensive. So if you haven't got access to that, that's fine. Okay, all right. What me, Miss Wallace and Miss Frost would all love is a little picture of you doing this experiment. That would be great if you could send that to the Year 6 website. Good luck and have fun doing the experiment.